So, Rabbi, I want to speak a little bit more about Chanuka because there's a lot of points that we missed also last week. You can never finish all the details, but at least we can get some more insights a little bit, into Chanuka, because really there's a lot of interesting things. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that we talked about last week, right? That the exile of Greece was really what, as we said, right? That they wanted to get rid of Judaism, not the Jews, right? That's what they really wanted to do. So what does that really mean? I want to explain that a little bit better to understand what that means. It's not really that they want to totally abolish the Torah, that it shouldn't be read or it shouldn't be studied. That wasn't the idea. The idea was that they wanted to make the Torah into just one other discipline that you study. In university, you go to Columbia, you go to Harvard and you take a Torah class over there, Bible, religious beliefs, all kinds of things like this, right? So that's what they wanted. They wanted they should be a part of the university program. You know what I mean? What does that mean? That don't take it like a fanatic, just like the theory of it. But you don't have to really actually practice the Judaism. Just, to think about it is nice, in theory, just philosophy. It's like a philosophy thing, you understand? That's what they wanted. They wanted to be part of a theoretical kind of thing. But in practice, no, we have no part in that. We have no proportion in the practice of Judaism. That's why they asked the Jews, right? They said, what they said to the Jews? They said, right on the horn of the ox, they have these horns, right? They gore, those rodeos that they have, those things, right? Whatever they call those. So what happens is, right, that that ox, they said right on that, we have no portion in the God of Israel. They told the Jews, you have to write like that on the horns of the ox. Crazy things like this, right? What was the reason why they asked them to do this on the ox? Because the Jews worshipped the golden calf in the desert, right? So they wanted to remind them of that. You guys are also idolaters. You worship the idol in the desert. No, so you guys are also not really such believers. Give me a break. You guys think you're above everybody. You think you're better than everybody. Nah, you guys are just like everybody else. You also worship idols just like we did. Just like we do. You're no different than us. So write that, and affirm that you have no portion in that. Yeah, you can study in university, go to Harvard, you can study Torah over there. But not as a discipline only, and theoretical. Not to actually practice, to stay away from clams, to stay away from all those things. No. We're talking about just in theory, just theoretical only. But you can do whatever you want. The bottom line is do whatever you want. But isn't that hypocritical? I mean, is that hypocrisy, no? On the one hand, you study. On the other hand, what? You do whatever you want? Is that what it's for? Yeah. What kind of thing is that, right? How can you live like that? You're living a lie. Either this part is a lie or that part is a lie, right? So the truth is, that the Greeks they believed, they had a very goyish belief, a very, very non-Jewish belief, which is, it's actually very symbolic of the non-Jewish thought. You know what that is? For them, right, they were the fathers of philosophy. They were the ones who created philosophy, right? Until this day, philosophy is studied in the universities, right? Who was the father? The Greeks were, Plato, Aristotle, these were great thinkers from the Greek people, right? Yeah. So, in philosophy, right, if you ever took a course in philosophy, I hope you didn't, but if you did, unfortunately, but if you did, right,
Republic.
They always ask you to prove something, with certain logic, certain, whatever, you have to do everything has to be logically. But you know what it is? When it comes, the bottom line with philosophy is, if you can't believe in something which is not tangible, something which is not really seen, you can't. And we talked about this, right? With Nissim, we talked about this, right? You were arguing with some people about this, right?
Like Darwin.
So yeah, the truth is, right? The Goyish philosophy, the non-Jewish philosophies, whatever I don't see, whatever I don't hear, I don't believe in that. That's just like a fairy tale. It's like Santa Claus. It's a tooth fairy. You want to give me a tooth fairy? Okay, but it's not real. It's a children's story, man. Give me a break. That's what it is. So
that's their outcome.
That's their approach. Yeah. If I don't see it, I don't believe in it. I don't see I don't see God. I don't see.
So what were they philosophizing about? The sun, the moon? I mean, what?
You have to prove certain things which are true. Right. You have to prove a truth. By way of the logical deduction. But that involves real, tangible things.
What about Nostradamus? What about Nostradamus?
Nostradamus, this guy was a Jewish heretic. That's what he was, actually, That's what he was. He was a Jewish heretic, yes.
He was Jewish, right?
Yes.
But
It's a
a
different
lot of stuff.
Yeah, but you know where he got that? He got from the Torah. He stole from the Torah and he pretended like he said it. You know, he was a thief. He stole everything from the Torah, from the Midrash, from the Zohar, from all these things. He stole from there. He was a thief, a heretic. You know, fake news. He was fake news big time. You know, like without any.
But at least the religion should feel a little honored that he actually stole the stuff from the Torah.
Well, it's not exactly an honor because, he left his religion and then he stole from the religion, you know what I mean? It's like, you steal, let's say, you grew up in a family, right? You left your parents and then you go and rob their apartment, give me a break. I mean, it's bad enough that you left them, you don't talk with them, and now also you rob them also as well, It's a little bit, where's the gratitude, right? No gratitude there. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right, getting back to what we said, that was the Greek idea of thinking. That's the way they thought. And this, by the way, also, the Chazal tell us, this was also the philosophy of Esav. Esav said also, listen, you want me to believe in God? I don't see God, I don't feel God, I don't know where He is. Give me a break, I'm not going to believe in something which I cannot tangibly feel or see. I can't hear Him, He doesn't talk to me. I don't know who He is. He talks to maybe parents He talks to. But to Esav He didn't talk, Everybody's gets their own, So what happened was that Esav also said this. He was the father of this idea. I don't see it, I don't feel it, it's not there. So he denied God. He was a denier. He was a denier. He was an atheist. That's how he started out. Later on, they make some phony religions after that. They made all kinds of things. But really, the Esav started out as an atheist. He was a heretic, atheist denier. That's what he was. So what happened was, right? They say that when he turned 13 years old, that day he did 5 sins, right? The Esav, to celebrate his bar mitzvah. That's how there was a celebration. Can you imagine? Some people celebrate, they make a party. This guy celebrated with sins. What did he do? They say, right, he did 5 sins when he became 13. What did he do? Well, number 1, he committed adultery with a married woman, right? Number 1, right? Number 2, he killed somebody, right? He murdered somebody. He murdered Nimrod, right?
The husband.
Right.
No.
Number 3, he denied God, right? He denied that God exists, and he denied the Torah. He did all the cardinal sins that a person could ever think of on his bar mitzvah day. Can you imagine? That's how he celebrated his bar mitzvah. That's how he was, Esav. So what do we learn from this, right? That the Goyish approach. Who is really the father of the Goyish countries? They say the Chazal, the father of the Goyish countries is Esav. He controls, right, the Goyish countries. The Goyish countries, all the Goyish countries, non-Jewish countries, they get their blessing from Esav, from the Satan, which is the angel of Esav. It comes from there, and Esav trickles down to the other nations as well. But Esav is their leader. He's their role model, right? George Bush, people like that, talking about that. HB, right? HB, Mr. HB, right? Yeah, HW, I'm sorry, HW. Yeah. Same thing. Okay, whatever. So yeah, HW, right? You know how he was. He was anti-Semitic, and what he did. You remember those things? Yeah, they're worshiping him. Yeah,
Slaver.
Yeah. They should make him into an idol as well, maybe.
Bush 41 was
They should make a gold idol out of him.
Very, very strongly anti-Semitic. He had that anti-Semitic, minister of the what do you call it? The secretary of right? No.
CIA.
No.
Baker.
Right, Baker. He was a major anti-Semite. This guy. You know what he said, right? F the Jews, he said. They don't vote for us anyway. That's what he said, right? F the Jews. That's what he said. You understand?
And then Bush himself went behind. This was a small story, but nobody picked up on it except, from sources. It was in the Times actually.
Yeah.
I was surprised because the New York Nazi Times was celebrating.
Yes.
What about?
He went to the Saudis because this is when the smaller Bush became president. He stepped in, and they had to be close to the Saudis. So he said to the Saudis, there was a conflict between Israel and the Palestinians back then. He said, and he whispered in his ear, in the Saudi king's ear, "Don't worry, my son's heart is in the right place."
Okay, we got the idea.
Points of light.
We got the idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Bush's son? You mean Bush 43?
Right. W.
Yeah. The sons, because the son had become president.
My friend W.
Right.
Well, that family is one of the families that run the world.
Families of Amalek. You're right.
Sam,
Exactly.
DuPont. And
Amalek.
No,
So
but
anyway.
the son was actually good to the
Ellen
Jews.
Rothschild.
Yeah, he was the one who got them to evacuate the Gaza Strip. Yeah, you remember that. He also did a lot of damage.
Well, all of them wanted.
With a hug he did damage. And some people hug you and do damage, some people rebuke you and they do damage, understand? The one who hugs you is even worse, because he's more dangerous, you understand? You don't know what to watch out for him. You don't know what to watch out for him. Anyway.
Who doesn't want them to evacuate the strip, honestly?
Can I ask you a
Okay,
question?
yes.
It has nothing to do with Hanukkah. It's something else
Okay.
that's been on my mind for a couple of weeks.
Okay,
The Jewish star.
yeah.
Okay, so where did this come from?
We'll talk about that later. That's not really involved with our discussion. We'll talk about it some other time. We'll talk about it some other time. We can't get into now a different topic altogether, right? So anyway, but getting back to what we said, as we said, right, that Esav, that's his philosophy. If I don't see it, I don't hear it, I don't believe in that. That's what the way the Greeks were as well. The Greeks said, to the Jews, what are you guys, like making like a fanatic religion out of your Torah? Your Torah is a very wise thing, Talmud, this, that, everything, Shulchan Aruch, this, Rambam, okay, very nice, but don't make it into fanatic, don't be fanatics.
Don't worship it.
Yeah, don't worship it. Just, learn it as a wisdom, as a discipline. That was the whole idea, right? So the Greeks wanted to make the Torah into something like mundane, So that's what they call that? They call that Torat Yavan. The Torah of the Greeks. What does that mean? Right? For them, the Torah is like, you just have to remove all the holiness from the Torah and do it as a discipline. That was the whole idea of the Greeks. One person, by the way, asked me a good question. I was giving a lecture on Shabbat, and he said, you know what? He says, I don't really feel that we defeated the Greeks.
We didn't.
You know what I mean? Why not? Why not?
We're living in their culture now.
That was the whole point. That's what he said.
Absolutely.
That's what he said, right? My friend over here around the block, he said, right, that he's, by the way, himself as a Kohen, the Kohanim were the ones who defeated the Greeks. So anyway, he says, I don't feel that we defeated the Greeks. So I said, why not? What do you mean? So he says, we still have Greek culture, like Nissim said, it's all around us. What does that mean? Go to Yankee Stadium, Shea Stadium, go here. This is all Greek culture, the sports, this and that, the workout gyms, this place, those places, all those, body shaping, body sculpting, body this, body building, all that's all Greek culture. That's universities, all the big universities that we have, that's also Greek culture. This is all Greek culture. Everything is Greek. You go on TV, what do you see, right? You see the soccer game, the World Cup, this, that, Mondial, Jondial, everything, right? Everything is Greek. That's all the Greek culture. That's all it was. So then, what was the victory worth? For us. I mean, what did we actually win? That was his question. It's a pretty good question. So you know what I answered him? I said, well, the answer is like this, right? That the Greeks really were defeated, but their culture was really never defeated at that time. What does that mean? That's why, by the way, some of the Mefarshim, some of the Rishonim, say that the exile of Greece is basically, the Rome is extension of exile of Greece. It's like really one long exile. In other words, we just shifted gears from Greece to Rome, but basically Rome took over the culture of Greece and ran with that and made it even more significant or whatever, more popular, whatever, more prominent.
Even the Romans acknowledge that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody acknowledges that.
Their
Yes.
gods and everything.
That's right.
They're building-
Yeah, right. The culture is still the same, basically, So then what did we really win? The truth is, right, that the Greek culture has not been defeated. And some even say, as we said, right, that it's really one exile, the Greek and the Roman. It's really one. By the way, history also corroborates this. You want to know why? Because as we said, right, that what happened was like this, if you want to know the history, right? According to Talmud, what is the history of the Greek nation? What happened over there, right? The one who founded this empire was Alexander the Great, right? We call him Alexandros Bogdon. That's how we call him in Hebrew, right? He was this guy, by the way, was a huge conqueror. He conquered the whole world, basically. You know what I mean? He had the whole world under his hands, under his feet, everything. But the interesting thing about him was that he was actually a righteous man. They say.
He loved the Jews and they loved him.
Right, exactly. He was a righteous man. He was a man who had a court system of morality. He was judging with morality and everything. He very much respected the Jewish religion and the Jewish people. And he used to come and visit and all kinds of things. And there was all kinds of interesting issues about that. They say, by the way, one time, it's what's brought down in Talmud, that there was one Kohen Gadol, right, the high priest. Who was that? Shimon HaTzadik, I think it was, right? Right, so they say, right, Shimon HaTzadik had a very holy face, He was a very holy looking man. So what happened was that Alexander one time met him. When he came to Israel, he met him over there, And he saw him and he was shocked, like he looked at him and says, oh my God. So, they asked him, they said, what are you shocked about? What happened? You fainted? What? You got a faint spell? The most powerful man in the world. So he says, I can't believe it. He says, this man that I'm looking at now, this guy, he says, I see him in my dreams all the time. He says, every time that I defeat nations, and I see him as the angel that defends me. Can you imagine? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was putting all kinds of dreams like this in his head with Shimon HaTzadik, and now he saw that this was the angel that was, So, it's an amazing thing, right?
Rabbi, just a question. Do you think that when Trump meets Putin, he tells him, I think I see you in my dreams?
Ask NBC about that. They'll tell you. Okay, they'll tell you about that. Okay, so anyway.
MSNBC.
Yes, MS, right. The special one, right.
Because they always tell us that he's obsessed with him.
All right.
Okay.
So anyway, right, the interesting thing was that Alexander Mokdon, he was the founder of the Greek Empire. And he was the one who defeated Persia, He wiped out Persia. Persia was the empire that was before.
He swallowed.
Right? Yeah, he knocked them out, gave him a knockout punch, finished them off. But what happened was, Alexander, all the time that he was alive, he was ruling over the whole world. And he had like 4 big provinces in the world, North, East, West, South. It was divided into 4 provinces. So what happened was that when he died, he had sons, some, inheritors, George W., all kinds of people like that, right? Jeb, George W., all kinds of people like this, right? So what happened was that these sons, they divided that kingdom into 4 pieces. Why? Because there was 4 sons, so they decided, I take the north, you take the south, I take the west, everybody gets one cut. So that's why the Greek Empire eventually divided up into 4 pieces. That's what happened, you understand? It really actually was 1 in the beginning, and then it got divided up into 4. So what happened was that as time went along in history, this is, by the way, counted, where? In Sefer Daniel, the book of Daniel. It's counted over there, all this history. Very well it's accounted, by the way. A lot of detail over there. If you really want to know all these things, how it happened and all these things, it tells you over there. So what happened was that as time went along, we're talking about hundreds of years, this empire went, So what happened was that in the end, there was 2 major empires that were left over from those 4. The other 2 were not so powerful. You understand? There was the north and the south. The east and west kind of like, faded out a little bit, got a little bit, swallowed up, whatever. So what happened was that the northern kingdom, in the end, turned into what? Turned into Rome. Rome came from there. You understand? Yeah. So that's what happened. You understand? There was, it's pretty amazing. So what happened was that there was always wars between north and south. And this was Greece and Rome. This turned into Greece and Rome. And that's why the wars were keeping going and going like this. So eventually the northern kingdom won, and that was Rome. You understand? And they conquered the Greeks and they got rid of them. So basically you see, right, that Rome was just an extension of the Greek Empire. It was 1/4 of the Greek Empire. And then the Roman Empire itself spread out also, right, into the whole world and started to rule the whole world. Little by little, they took over everything, right? They took over the whole world. So what do we see from there? We see from there, right, the Roman and Greek Empire basically are one culture. It's one country. It's one empire, But the Romans turned it into, instead of the Greeks ruling, who are the sons of Yefet, the sons of Esav took over. You understand? The Romans were from Esav.
Also Yefet.
You understand? No, not Yefet. Esav. Esav is Esav, The brother of Yaakov, our brother, Esav, George Bush, people like that, HW, So, do you ever wonder why these people look like Jewish? They look kind of Jewish, these guys? Because they're Esav. They're our twin brother. That's what they are. Twin brothers. We're twin brothers. Esav and Yaakov are twin brothers. So what do you expect? We shouldn't look alike? We look the same. That's why...
Who are you referring to in particular?
George W.
Yeah, he always did look.
Yeah, he's Esav. This is Esav.
W look Jewish?
Yeah.
Huh?
W, you think look Jewish?
Oh, yeah.
It's all with all those people, We'll say it's all the same, These are Romans, by the way. Understand? These people are from Roman descent.
He's an Ashkenazi Jew.
You understand? That's where they come from.
Kissinger.
They come from Roman descent. These people. What happened was that the Roman Empire split up, as time went along, and they moved to England. They migrated to England. Some people to Germany. They went all over the world. They took over South America, here, there, everywhere. So now the Roman Empire is everywhere, pretty much. Everywhere where you see the Christian symbol, that's the Roman Empire.
They say that from all the presidents that we had, he was actually the most compassionate and moral and sympathetic.
Yeah, except to the Jews. That's the problem. You know what I mean? With one exception.
Prescott Bush.
George, the
with the
one that
Nazis.
just passed away.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Yeah.
Prescott Bush.
Yeah.
Hey,
He was the most.
Prescott Bush worked with the Nazis. He doesn't notice.
So anyway, right, as we said,
You know how many Jews affiliated with the Nazis?
He
back
worked
then?
with Thiessen, the bank.
yeah.
All these German companies.
Yes.
Actually, he got caught actually committing treason against the United States.
So as we said, Rabotai, that this is the origin of the Greek Empire. This is how it came about. So what does that mean? That really we're still fighting this battle today. With the Hellenist culture. It's now just shifted gears into a different empire, but it's basically the same thing under a different guise. So the truth is the Greek Empire has not been defeated. It's true. They're still continuing until this day because it just turned into Rome. That's the idea. So anyway, Rabotai, getting back to what we were talking about, right? That the Greek, there's something also very interesting about the Greek, as we said, right? That the biggest villain over there was Antiochus. Right? This guy was a big anti-Semite, probably bigger than Baker, even bigger than Baker, right? From Texas, Mr. Baker. James A. III, you remember that guy? Remember?
Yeah, his wife. Remember
Low life is low life, right? So
wife.
James A. III Baker, yeah,
Baker.
right. He wanted to bake the Jews, but he didn't get a chance.
But not the other
Baker
one.
is still alive.
Yeah, he's still alive.
But
yeah.
not the. Tammy was his wife. That was the one, right?
Right, whatever. So anyway, Amalek, it's Amalek. Right? They used to call him Haman, by the way, Haman. They used to call him Haman, that was his nickname. Yeah, that was his nickname. Yeah. So anyway, getting back to what we said, Rabbi, that Antiochus was the biggest villain over there in the Greek Empire for the Jewish people. He was the one who subjugated the Jews. And God punished him greatly, by the way. He was punished very greatly. He died, with a very difficult death. His body became, was coming apart as he was traveling. He was going back from Israel, to his empire, right? His empire was in Syria, right, in the north, right? So what happened was that until he got there, there's a place in the north called Antiochia. Why they call Antiochus? It was named after him. That's why it's called Antiochia. Why was it named after him? Because he used to live there. There was a place that he used to live. It's still there until this day. You can go and see it, right? So that place was where he lived. And they say, by the way, that he had an illness and his body was coming apart, some kind of leprosy thing, So they say that as he was going back, he was totally dismembered. And just like body came apart, and he died totally dismembered, this guy. So it's interesting, by the way, right, that what Antiochus, this villain, he's a little bit different than all the other villains. You know why? I'll explain to you why. Interesting, right? That we find there was a lot of villains. There was Sisera, right, who wanted to make war against the Jewish people before the first temple was built. And there was actually Kadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle, defeated him, Sisera. Then there was also, right, the Caesars, like Neron, right? Nero. There was all kinds of Caesars. And there was also Haman, right? We talked about that last week, right? Haman al-Rasha. Where was Haman from? He was from Amalek. He was Amaleki, from Esau. He wanted to wipe out the Jews, just like Hitler, same thing. So same idea, right? So Haman, right? They say about all these villains, by the way. You know what they say? They say that all of them had descendants who converted to Judaism and became rabbis. Can you imagine? Who came from them? Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Akiva. Right? Came from these big villains. They say that even the descendants of Haman converted to Judaism and they were studying Torah in Bnei Brak. Can you imagine? Bnei Brak, very close to Tel Aviv, right? It's a very Haredi community over there. So we see, right, that they all converted, these people in the end. Their families converted, became Jewish. All these enemies. Except, right, this guy we don't see. Antiochus we don't see. Right? Interesting, right? We don't find that. So the question is why?
Yes.
It's freezing. I was wondering why.
So why is it that we don't find Antiochus? Anybody have an idea? What makes him worse than anybody else?
He was dismembered.
You know what I mean? Right, but he had children, so why not from him? By the way, I want to tell you that according to the Kabbalah, there's a reason for this. Why is that? That all these villains, they had children who converted, and became Jewish, and became rabbis even.
The spark.
What kind of spark is that? What is that? So they say the Mekubalim? They say something amazing. That these people who rise against the Jews, they actually have very holy souls.
Right.
You know why? Because a person who's a normal guy, a regular guy, mediocre, he will not rise against the Jews. It has to be somebody who has a lot of holiness to him. Because you need power to rise against the Jews. You understand? You cannot do it without power. You have to have a special power for that. It's an amazing thing, right? So,
The whole idea just freaks
yeah, it freaks you out. Yeah, it's freaky. It's pretty freaky. So, what does that mean? That these people actually have very holy souls.
Even Hitler, you think?
Absolutely.
So, let me explain to you what this means. Yeah, we're talking about all these people. Yeah. You know why? Because, as we said, right, they cannot rise against the Jews unless they have very holy souls. So then if that's the case, what makes them rise against the Jews if they're so holy? They should want to be with the Jews. So what's the answer? The answer is because when Adam HaRishon, right, the first man, Adam HaRishon, he made the first sin. So what happened was that a lot of the elements of his neshama went into the klipot, they went into the tumah, they went into the impurity. They fell into there. So as HaKadosh Baruch Hu fixes those souls and brings them back up into the purity, to the holiness, they need to be fixed up little by little. It doesn't happen in one shot. So they keep coming back in reincarnations. You know what I mean? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he does is he takes these souls and they fell into a very impure place. So they little by little need to come out of there. But what happens is they can't come out in one shot. So what happens is that people like this who have very holy souls, but they still have the impurity left there from the sin of Adam HaRishon. So therefore, until they get rid of that part, of that piece, they can't yet come into Judaism yet. It's too early for them. It's premature. It's a preemie.
How long
You understand?
it'll take for the Georgian community?
That's a good question. We have to think about that one. Okay, so so what I'm telling you is, right, that these people, they have a very holy souls, but they have also klipa. They have impurity that holds them down, doesn't allow them to attach to holiness yet. So they need to come back more in reincarnations in order to fix the problem. It takes more and more and more. So George will come back too, I'm sure. He'll come back. But the interesting thing is, right, that until they're ready to do that, because of the impurity that they have in their soul, mixed in with the good, they want to rise against Judaism. And they want to rise because they can't stand it. It's too pure for them. It's too clean. It's too holy. So they want to fight against it. They can't live with that it exists like that. You understand? So this is the reason why these souls come against Judaism, because they actually have very holy souls in themselves, but they're still in the klipa.
Chaos.
So why do I tell you that? What's the significance to us, to our discussion? Kadosh Baruch Hu eventually brings them out. As we said, right, even Bilam, who was the most impure person who ever lived, nobody was more impure than him, right?
Yeah,
He was the father in impurity.
Who?
Bilam.
Say it
Yom
name
HaShem,
again.
prophet.
Bilam.
Bilam.
So, we'll explain to you later what that means. So, anyway, we're saying, right, that even Bilam, Kadosh Baruch Hu tried to fix him, to bring him back into reincarnation. He brought him back into Jewish people. He brought him back as a Jew.
Who?
You know who he was, right?
No, who will know?
His name was Naval Karmeli. He was alive in the time of David HaMelech. Anyway, the point is that
Did he retain all of his power?
no, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, he cuts out that bad part. You understand? He cuts. He makes the surgery. He cuts out the bad part and brings the good part back. So what happened was that all these people, eventually, what happens is that as time goes along, they come back reincarnations. So all of a sudden, Rabbi Meir now comes from these people. Can you imagine? Rabbi Akiva comes from these people. Holy people like this. Why? Because that's the same holy soul. But now the klipa has been removed. The impurity has been removed from them. So little by little, they're coming back, right? But Antiochus we don't see. That he had descendants. We don't find that in the Talmud. Interesting, right? It's my personal observation. I noticed. The question is, why not? What's wrong with this guy? Why is he so bad? Even that he wasn't able to do. So you know what the answer is, right? All these woes, all these foes, all these villains that we mentioned. What were they trying to do? they were trying to kill the Jewish people. But Antiochus was not trying to kill them. He was trying to take them away from Judaism. To remove them from Judaism. That's what the Chazal tell us, right? The Chazal tell us that a person who causes one to sin is worse than the one who kills him. You understand? Killing somebody is better than causing him to sin. Why is that?
No, killing is a sin.
You understand? Yeah, it's a sin. But causing him to sin is even worse. Why? You know why? Because when you kill somebody, you're only taking away his olam hazeh. In this world, you're taking him away. When you cause him to sin, you're taking away his olam haba, his permanent world. That's even worse. Because that world is permanent. This world is just temporary. We're only here for 80 years. 75, whatever, 85, 95, whatever it is. George was 94, right? George. Right? So that's the way it is. When you cause somebody to sin, you're taking away his world to come. That's even worse. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't forgive for that. And this is the reason, by the way, they say that he punished the snake so badly. You know, when he caused Adam HaRishon to sin, he caused Chava to sin. The snake was punished more than anybody else. Why?
But if you're causing me to sin,
Yeah.
why should I be held responsible for it in the next world? You're the one who caused it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm the one who causes is the one who's a sinner.
Right.
You understand? I cause you to sin. I'm a sinner.
But you're also taking away
I'm taking away your olam haba.
my olam
So
haba.
therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu punishes a person like that even worse, even more. So let me explain to you an interesting thing, right? They say about the snake that all the animals will be. You'll see over there the verses are written etched in stone.
I always had a dilemma about the wild. That why does God allow this savagery?
Right, savagery. Yeah, it's because of the sin of Adam HaRishon.
What's so funny?
Yeah.
You know, lions going after innocent
Sure.
animals and nothing, you know.
Right, it's their nature. They can't help it.
They're hungry.
You know? Be fixed. Every animal, the lion, the tiger, the leopards, the cheetahs, everybody, except one. The snake will not be fixed. He has no tikkun. He has no fixing, the snake.
So the sheep is considered holy?
No, we're not Egyptians. They're the ones who worship sheep, right?
No, you said the lions will lie next to the sheep.
That means they won't slaughter them. They won't eat them. That's the idea.
Right. Oh,
You understand? They'll be like hanging around together. Like, you go Dunkin' Donuts, hanging around together.
Yeah.
You know? He hates him the most. He hates him more than anybody else.
Wow.
And this is the reason why the snake has no tikkun. Antiochus, nothing came out of him. Nothing good came out of Antiochus.
Snake is the symbol of medicine.
Do you think that's why most atheists die a miserable death? You know, like they're unhappy. Watch these people. I'm just getting off the topic here, but it's interesting because I watch these people,
Yeah.
you know, atheists who are going around trying to spread atheism. And most of them are just miserable, angry people. They die at the end, you know, like that guy Hawkins or Hitchens, whatever. All he did was show up at these universities and try to spread that there's no God, and he was the most miserable human being himself. Yeah.
Sure.
You know?
By the way, that's what the Chazal say. The Chazal say exactly what he's saying. You know what they say? That there are stages when a person becomes not religious, leaves the religion, leaves Judaism. There's different stages, right, that he goes through. Number one is he himself doesn't want to do, right, but to perform the mitzvot. Number two, he doesn't want to study Torah. Number three, right, he stops believing also. Believing in God. Goes down, right? So the next step is what? Now he tells other people also not to believe. That's the next step. You know, that's more degradation. Once you get to that level, we have to spread it to others as well. That shows that, you know, you're getting...
He in particular, this guy, came from a Jewish British family.
Yes,
He
yes.
himself, you know?
Yes.
Who came from the
So you're absolutely right, Rabotai.
Hitchens, the guy that died a few years ago. The atheist. Was it Hawkins or
Hawkins.
Hitchens?
That's the
right
question.
before Shabbat comes in.
Right, exactly. But the interesting, yeah, you're right. That's exactly how we do it.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we do that? Because you were supposed to be lighting at night, not in the daytime, right? So how all of a sudden now could you light in the daytime on Friday and fulfill your obligation like that? The rabbi said you have to light at night. So,
What do you do?
right, there's no other way. I mean, you know. But it's an interesting thing, right? That here they say, instead of lighting at night, you can light from Plaga Mincha. What time is Plaga Mincha? Plaga Mincha means it's 1 hour and a quarter before it becomes night. 1 hour and a quarter.
It's still getting dark though.
Interesting what you're saying. but the sun is still up.
The beginning of darkness.
Sun is still up. Yeah, it's good. You were just saying. You're getting to the right level.
Before sunset.
You're going in the right direction. You're going right.
Before sunset.
You're getting warmer. The significance of that word is Erev. Erev means in Hebrew it means west, the west side, right? Why is that? What does that? The evening has to do west side because the sun goes down on the west side, right? It rises in the east and goes down in the west. That's what it is, right?
Is that the way it works?
Yeah. Last time I checked. Question is, why is that? What's the reason why? Right? We're worried about that. Why is that called Erev? So things like this, right? That the sun starts rising from the east, goes up. Noon, it's right over the head, right? Right over your head.
Supposedly.
The sun, right? Yeah? So now
Not
it starts to tilt towards the west, like this, right?
But
Little
not
by
all the
little,
time. Not all the time, Rabbi.
tilting.
Rabbi, not all the time is it straight up and down.
Yeah, okay, but more or less, let's say, yeah. It tilts towards the west. That's what we do. Because it has to be already Erev. It has to be Erev. Ben Arbaim. Right? So Erev starts at that time, but that's just the beginning. And then little by little, the sun starts to tilt more and more west, and eventually goes down, right? Yeah? So there's all those phases. The west are different levels of night. The first level, as we said, is the midday, right? Then half hour after that, it's time we play mincha already. Half hour after midday, we have to pray mincha, right? The first time we can pray mincha. Then it keeps going down. There's also then plaga mincha, as we said, right? There's a plaga mincha. Plaga mincha, as we said, is hour and a quarter before the night.
Before Shkia?
Once you get close, the sun gets close to going down, hour and a quarter before, that's what we call plaga mincha, that's what we call night. Right? It's a lighter form of night. It's almost down already. So therefore, we rely on this opinion now. Right? In other words, in general, we don't rely on this because we want it to be really, the sun going down altogether. It starts coming out as well. But since because we cannot light on Shabbat, so therefore we rely on this opinion now, right? And we say we light before plaga mincha, which is hour and a quarter. Once the hour and a quarter comes in, you can already light the Chanuka candles, right? And say the bracha, you make the blessings also. Everything in the normal way, right? But you have to make sure one thing, right? When you light for Shabbat your Chanuka candles, even though we're lighting before the sun goes down, as we said. By the way, which one do you first? That's what we do, right? So we light that. We make the blessing, regular blessing of Chanuka candles. What is that? Le'adik ner Chanuka and she'asa nisim lavotenu b'yamim hahem b'zman hazeh. You have enough oil, right, or enough candle, right, whatever. You have enough candle there or oil there that it should last into Shabbat as well. In other words, when it gets dark, it should last another half hour after that. Why? Because that's really the time that it's supposed to be lit, the night time. So therefore, you should put in, like, let's say, just to be on the safe side, 2-3 hours worth of oil in there, right? At least, right? That you should have enough that it should light until it gets dark and well into Shabbat, 1/2 hour at least into Shabbat. So this way, right? Candle, or you don't have to relight?
I wouldn't think so.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. You mentioned something last time about.
Yeah.
Like taking medicine, you miss it. If you skip it, if you miss it, you don't revisit it.
Right. No, it's just interesting what you're saying. But so you know why, by the way, the reason you don't have to relight it. I mean, if it's already Shabbat, obviously you can't relight it. There's nothing you can do. You don't want to break Shabbat, right? Obviously,
Right.
That's clear. But what about if it's not yet Shabbat? So should you relight it, or do you have to relight it, or not relight it? Right? So the truth is, right, on any day when you light the Hanukkah candles, if they went out before, let's say they lit for a half hour on Shabbat before they lit for Shabbat, you don't have to relight them. You know why? Because the mitzvah is to light it, not to have it lit. Oil in there to last. Right, exactly. It has to be enough oil in there. And that's the reason why, by the way, also, let's say a person, right, lit the Hanukkah candle, it didn't have enough oil in there for a half hour. Or on Shabbat, 2 hours, whatever it is, right? So, what happens now? Did he do the mitzvah? He has to put that out and do it again. Why? Because he doesn't have enough oil in there, potentially, go for a half hour. Go for Shabbat 2 hours, whatever it is, right? So since he doesn't have that, he has to put it out and do it again. But this time he's not going to make a bracha. Why? Because it's a safek, it's a doubt. Maybe he fulfilled his obligation. We're not 100% sure about that. So therefore, if a person did that, he lit and there wasn't enough oil in there for a half hour, By the way, usually there is, because, half hour is like a very little amount of oil. It's like very tiny, It's like a little, maybe an ounce, whatever, it's very, very small. Not even an ounce. Much less than an ounce. So the point is, right, that 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30, whatever. Why is that? Because this way you can light the candles afterwards, right, without having to have the hassle, not having to worry about davening, also to pray on time, and this and that, because things get very hairy. Also, there's another thing, right, which is that you should do mincha first, since it's more like a frequent mitzvah, and the lighting is not so frequent, so it's better to do mincha first, and then to do lighting. The mincha earlier, with the minyan, so you can do also later at the regular time, but just makes things easier, more efficient, more correct, more logical, whatever. So that's why it's good. What about after Shabbat? What do we do after the Shabbat? I'll tell you an interesting story, right? That after Shabbat, the problem is like this: that we have to wait till Shabbat goes out, right? So the question is, when does Shabbat really go out? And then we have Tzedek Kohavim, the stars come out. And then we have also Rabbeinu Tam, which is what? Rabbeinu Tam is 72 minutes after the sun goes down. Like David said, more or less. That's what he was saying, right? Very close.
There's 8.5 degrees and then there's 72 minutes.
Yeah, but they'll go like those calendars. Those are a little bit cheesy, that stuff. It's a little bit cheesy. Those calendars. Explain to you why. Okay, so the truth is, right, that you have to wait 72 minutes. What does that mean? Shaul Zmaniot. According to Torah times, you have to wait. So that's not exactly what it says over there. A little bit different. So what that means that it goes according to the size of the day, divide up into 12 units, and that becomes the hour. So it's shorter in the winter and it's longer in the summer. We talked about this one time, maybe a few months ago, whatever. That's right. What about Hanukkah candles? When do you light? Do you light from the time of the Geonim, 13 and a half minutes, 20 minutes after the sun goes down? Or you got to wait for Rabbeinu Tam, 72 minutes? Which one is the better? Since lighting a fire is the right from the Torah, so therefore the recommended thing, right, Moreno Maran said, you should wait 72 minutes before you light the Hanukkah candles. So as sun goes down, what time does the sun go down now this time of year? 4:30. Sun goes down. So you got to wait till 5:42, right? More or less, right? That's the idea. So it's a little bit less now because it's winter. It's a little bit shorter. Okay, whatever. You got the idea. So the point is, Rabbi, that a person has to wait till that time. Why? Because you're doing something which is from the Torah. Lighting a candle is from the Torah. So you should wait till 5:42 and then do your Hanukkah candles at that time. In the Bet Knesset, I'll tell you, right? Now comes time to light the Hanukkah candles, right? They light also in the shul. You know how it is, right? So we happen to finish the Arvit before Rabbeinu Tam, before 72 minutes. That's the way it was. We finished pretty early. We used to start Arvit about a half hour after the sun goes down. So now they come and say to the Rabbi, okay, Rabbi, let's light the Hanukkah candles, right? So the Rabbi said, no, we're not going to light. Right? So they told him, I said, why not? The Rabbi, what happened? You don't believe in Hanukkah anymore? What, you forgot about that? What's with you? So he says, no, it's not Rabbeinu Tam yet. It's not, the Shabbat is not over yet. We cannot light a fire now. We still need more like 10, 15 more minutes to light. We cannot wait that. And the Rosh, they say that Rabbeinu Tam was a very big rabbi. So they say over there he was even bigger than the Rambam, according to their opinion. You understand? So can you imagine how big he was? So he says, they said he was bigger than the Rambam. You're trying to say that we should just ignore his opinion? Like he's nobody? He's nothing? You cannot do that, right? The truth is that it's not only his opinion, there's also 80 other rabbis who agree with him. Besides, there's 80 rabbis. Can you imagine? The one book counts up all the rabbis who agree with Rabbeinu Tam regarding this on Shabbat. He found 80 rabbis who agree with him. Rishonim, old rabbis, the former, from the good old days. Medieval rabbis, these guys. With the big shoulders, big beards, these guys. So those guys, the 80 of them said like Rabbeinu Tam. So therefore the rabbi wouldn't let us light. So what do you see from there, Rabbi? You see from there that a person should be careful, about Shabbat. Since Shabbat is very, 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 it's very stringent, because a person is liable. Yes. See, I'm going to tell you about that afterwards. I'm going to give you some tips on that. But anyway, my tips are really going to help you. Not going to really help you.
These tips?